It was an absolutely incredible sight today, 40 kilometers from the international border with Pakistan in Rajasthan, in Barmer, where Indian Air Force aircraft swooped down to land not on a runway, but a national highway itself. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me right. Roads have begun to become runways for the Indian Air Force. Take a look at an incredible day under the hot, scorching desert sun in Barmer. This is National Highway 925A. Location, Rajasthan's Barmer. Just 40 kilometers from the international border with Pakistan. And this road, under the hot sun, has just turned into an airstrip for the Indian Air Force, giving a huge boost to frontline air power capabilities and a clear message from India to Pakistan. What you're looking at is one of India's most lethal fighter jets, Sukhoi 30 MKI. Now you're looking at a C-130J Super Hercules transport plane, both of which touched down on India's first airstrip on a national highway in Barmer. Now you're looking at a Jaguar deep penetration strike jet conducting a touch-and-go maneuver on the same highway-turned runway. India's lethal warbirds on full display on a runway carved out of a national highway. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari arrived at the venue on board one of these aircraft. Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat and Indian Air Force Chief Air Chief Marshal RKS Bhadauria were present on the ground.
इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर से कुछ ही कदम दूर इस प्रकार की इमरजेंसी लैंडिंग फील्ड का तैयार होना यह सिद्ध कर दिया है कि भारत अपनी एकता, संप्रभुता और अखंडता की रक्षा के लिए सदैव तैयार है।
विशेष रूप से आज ये जैसा ऐतिहासिक उद्घाटन राजनाथ सिंह जी आपके हाथ से हुआ है, तो मुझे खुशी हुई कि इस साल हमने 3 वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड किए हैं। ये वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड तो नहीं है, पर एक ऐतिहासिक क्षण है।
The airstrip assumes huge significance given the geographic importance of the location. Just 40 kilometers from the Pakistan border, it gives the Indian Air Force strategic flexibility in this very sensitive western sector. The airstrip can be used in emergencies and also serve as an effective runway backup in a war-like situation. Indian Air Force jets can be mobilized at short notice, and the strip will be helpful in precision strikes and sorties. The mantra is simple: a road treated right becomes a runway. According to the government, 28 such highways will be developed into runways across the country. This 3-kilometer-long stretch was built in collaboration with the National Highways Authority of India and the Indian Air Force at a cost of 45 crore rupees. In 2017, Indian Air Force Mirage 2000 fighters had conducted mock landings on the Lucknow-Agra Expressway to show that such highways can be used by Indian Air Force jets for landing in case of emergency.
NHAI and Air Force have already identified 28 more locations. Some of them, like this one, will be close to the borders, others will be in the hinterland. So in years to come, more of these highways that will double up as emergency landing facilities for the Indian Air Force.
With Abhishek Bhalla in Barmer, Rajasthan, Bureau Report, India Today. Well, it's not often that you see roads turning into runways. So why exactly is this so crucial? You might be wondering, we've got air bases, we've got airstrips. Why do we need highways to be converted into runways for aircraft? Number one, it provides flexibility for military pilots and planners. The runways will be available for emergency landings whenever necessary. They can be readied, they can be prepared in an extremely short time. And this would be, remember, much lower in terms of cost than a full-fledged air base, which can cost many hundreds of crores. Something like this would cost just about 35 to 40 crores to convert a highway into an airstrip. It will be available for quick precision strikes and, most importantly, gives military planners and fighter pilots a great deal of flexibility and availability of landing areas during operations. So that's basically what this is all about. What you've seen is one strip where landings happen today. There is another between Agra and Lucknow and Agra and Delhi where aircraft have also landed, but there are more than 25 more locations spread across India where more such roads are going to be turned into highways. Gaurav has more details of where these are coming up.
Flexibility is the name of the game. Quick turnaround, precision strike preparedness, and this is why 28 such airstrips are being built on highways across the country. So let's take a look at some of those locations of runways that are in the pipeline. Jammu and Kashmir, for example. Now there is an airstrip. It's currently under construction at Avantipura. This is on the Srinagar-Banihal highway, extremely crucial in Jammu and Kashmir. Punjab, again, close to the border, there is an airstrip that is being constructed on NH71 in Sangrur. Haryana, again, extremely crucial. Remember, you have the Ambala Air Base, but two such strips are coming up. One is coming up in Sirsa, the other in Hisar, again on the National Highway. Uttar Pradesh, three strips being made. Muradabad is one, Lucknow-Raebareli Highway is the other one, and another the third is near the Ayodhya township. Let me now take you to Andhra Pradesh. Another three airstrips are coming up in Andhra Pradesh. Construction underway in Nellore. There's also one on the Vijayawada highway and one on the Rajamundry-Vijayawada road. Let's now come to West Bengal. Crucial, whether it's Andhra Pradesh or West Bengal, because you also have to protect your seas. So Balasore, Kharagpur, extremely, extremely important. Now let's just switch focus. Let me take you to the west of the country. You talked about, we saw Jalore, but apart from that, there are two others that are coming up. It's in the pipeline. So in several of these airfields, the enemy may be in a position to strike at your air bases. But when you prepare these sites, you can take off, land. In an emergency, it will have refueling facilities, it will have staff there, it'll have maintenance, all on a war scale. You have strips that are coming up in Gujarat, you have strips that are coming up in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu and Puducherry again become very important because the Indian Ocean region with your Su-30 MKIs, it's huge. Now when you need to protect the east, Assam becomes very important, Bihar becomes very important, Odisha becomes extremely, extremely important, and a number of these runways are coming up.
Gaurav, thanks very much for that. Now let's take a look at some of the top highlights of the Rajasthan runway launch and what it really means. The airstrip is very close to the India-Pak border, just about 40 kilometers from the border itself. It can be used during emergency operations. It's a huge strategic boost to the western sector. And we're taking... Okay. Let's just tell you a little bit more about that now.
Why is the Barmer runway so important? This is very close to the India-Pakistan border. It can be used in an emergency. It has a huge strategic boost, a strategic importance in the western sector. It's a backup runway in a war situation. The jets can be mobilized at a very short notice, so it is a major force multiplier. And look at the aircraft that took off and landed. When you talk about the Jaguar, they are the deep penetration strike aircraft. As the name suggests, they can go deep inside enemy territory, strike and return quickly. Su-30 MKI, capable of taking 10 tons of weapons, extremely potent. The C-130J Hercules, now the Super Hercules, short takeoff, short landing, short runway, but extremely versatile, especially for operations, including by the Special Forces. Shiv.
Gaurav, thank you very much. Very privileged to be joined this evening on a day like this by Air Marshal Anil Chopra. He's a veteran fighter pilot, also Director General of the Center for Air Power Studies. He's been in operations, he's flown fighter aircraft in emergencies, and is someone who's very well versed with what today actually means as far as air power and planning is concerned. Welcome, Air Marshal. Thank you, and good to see you back here on India Today. As a fighter pilot, Air Marshal Chopra, you're sitting in your cockpit, you're in operations. I want you to tell us, from your perspective, what having roads as runways really means, because you have the double perspective, both as a fighter pilot as well as a planner.
Yeah, thank you, Shiv. Always a pleasure to be with India Today. And I must tell you that it's very, very important that we have made an emergency landing field just next to the border, just 40 kilometers, as you mentioned, in Barmer. And I must contextualize this whole thing in two ways. One is there is an operational requirement. You see, initially our airfields in Rajasthan sector were relatively thin. Now the numbers have increased, but still, you know, when you come back, let's say from a strike in enemy territory, and you come back and you find that your airfield has been bombed or it's had a real bad weather and it's not possible for you to land, either you must have significant amount of extra fuel to go to an alternate field, but in war-like situations, there'll be occasions when you will not have sufficient fuel. You might have engaged in combat over there. So therefore, it's very important to have some emergency landing fields so that you don't lose a very expensive aircraft. But the concept itself had been thought of as early as the Second World War. The Germans, the Swedes, the Finns, all of them had emergency landing grounds in those days. Of course, those times, the aeroplanes were much slower. They were mostly propeller aircraft. Times have changed. You know, very expensive aircraft, large aircraft, Su-30, 10 tons of loads. So in operational context, very important to have an alternate place nearby, not one, preferably 2, 3, 4 of them. You know, earlier we had these two highways, the Jamna Expressway and the Agra-Lucknow highway, a little farther, deeper inside the enemy territory. But in peacetime, even these can be used, because sometimes in Hindon, you could have a terrible bad weather all of a sudden. Somebody could be low on fuel, so you could be landing there. So there is a peacetime context, but there is an operational context. In operational context, yes, we need more and more such landing strips closer to the border. Yes.
Air Marshal, you know, there are many such strips coming up across highways in different parts of the country. There are people who will be wondering, you know, that it makes sense to have many of these near the border. There are some that are coming up near Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry as well. Is that also for the same reason, sir?
You see, there will be operations. Now, you know, you will see more and more operations take place in Indian Ocean. You know, Southern Air Command has already got the Su-30s, they've got the LCAs coming, and more airplanes will come up. Similarly, on the Eastern Front, we are going to have more aircraft coming up, both from the Navy side and from the Air Force side. So there will be requirements of such strips all over the country. Luckily, in India now, the highways are very good. The quality of roads is very good. All we have to earmark is certain portions of that highway with proper marking, so that easier for us to have a center line and also the landing point markings. I have physically driven on some of these, yes, especially the one now Agra, expressway. And it's so beautifully done. It's so much easier for the pilot to be able to land in the case of an emergency. Yes.
Incredible. The availability. Yes. You wanted to make another point, Marshal?
Yeah, see, the point is that today we have landed 3 types of, yes, aeroplanes. You know, Jaguar has got a small wing, requires high speed to touch down. Su-30 is a larger aircraft, but it can land at a much slower speed. So, and C-130 is strategic force, aircraft for special operations. So, all 3 are different types of aeroplanes. So, you have actually today demonstrated that a variety of aeroplanes will be used for such emergency landing. In case of special operations, the C-130 in many cases also, designed to land in rough surfaces, as we have seen here, landed in DBO and so many other places. So there is this demonstration has given multiple signals to the world as far as our capability on this count is concerned. Yes.
Marshal Chopra, stay with me. There's been another big development today. All along while we've been watching these images of these aircraft landing on that highway near Rajasthan, a huge milestone, hugely significant deal has just been cleared by the Indian government. And aircraft like the one that's going to be purchased could also perhaps potentially land on airfields just like these on our runways. It's a huge boost to India's Atmanirbhar push. 40 C-295 transport aircraft for the Indian Air Force are to be made right here in India as part of a deal that's been cleared worth 22,000 crore for 56 Airbus light transport aircraft called C-295s. And you know what the best part about this is, ladies and gentlemen? This is the first time that an Indian private sector company will be building military aircraft for the Indian military. Take a look. What you're looking at is the C-295. A sturdy, modern military transport aircraft. Built for rapid transport of troops, 5 to 10 tons of weapons, vehicles, and anything militaries may need. And now, the Indian Air Force is all set to become the latest operator of this aircraft. The Modi government on Wednesday cleared a long-pending $2.5 billion deal for 56 of these planes. Of enormous significance is the fact that while 16 of these aircraft will be supplied by Airbus directly from a factory in Spain, the remaining 40 will be built by a private sector consortium led by the Tata Group right here in India. That alone is a gigantic milestone, the first ever military aircraft manufacturing program to be led by the Indian private sector and not state-owned Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, which has monopolized this space for decades. The C-295, in service with 15 countries, is a platform that can be configured for a variety of missions apart from its baseline duties of military transport. Other missions include maritime surveillance, special operations, command and control, and operations from unprepared surfaces. The deal for 56 C-295s has taken a long time coming and has taken nearly a decade to be concluded, and they won't be coming a minute too soon. The Airbus planes are intended to replace the Indian Air Force's old, aging British Avro aircraft that were once built by HAL. The aircraft have long outlived their useful life, and the Indian Air Force has long felt the need for flexible, reliable, modern tactical transport aircraft. The C-295 will join a multi-nation fleet of transport aircraft already in service with the Indian Air Force. In addition to the old Avros, the Indian Air Force's current tactical fleet comprises mostly Soviet-era AN-32 aircraft. In a higher weight class, the Indian Air Force operates a dozen American C-130J Super Hercules aircraft kitted out for special operations and missions behind enemy lines. And at the higher end of cargo capacity, the Indian Air Force also operates the Russian Il-76 jets and a fleet of 11 giant American C-17 Globemaster IIIs, which have recently seen action in the Kabul evacuations. The C-295 fulfills a long-felt need for a modern military transport that's quick to maintain and fly and can operate in forward airfields at short notice. With a factory to come up in India, it's likely that many more could be built for the Indian Navy and Indian Coast Guard as well. Bureau Report, India Today. It's difficult to overstate just what a big deal this is. huge Atmanirbhar push for the Indian Air Force and for India. Let's tell you exactly why this is such a huge milestone for India, for India's economy, for Indian aerospace. This is the first ever military aircraft contract, ladies and gentlemen, to India's private sector. Imagine, in all these years since independence, the first time that a private sector company has received a contract to build military aircraft for the Indian military. It's also the first military aircraft deal for Airbus in India. Airbus has been very successful in supplying passenger jets to India, but it has never been able to sell military aircraft. This is the first deal for Airbus. The deal has taken a long time to come. It took 10 years to conclude. Started during the UPA, finally only concluded now. It is valued at about 22,000 crore rupees, of which at least 18,000 crore rupees will be going to the Tata Group and the other companies involved in manufacturing these jets, 40 of them here in India. The Tata Group, remember, will be manufacturing them in Hyderabad. Now, the first aircraft will be delivered in 4 years from now. All aircraft, all 56 aircraft will be delivered within 10 years. So, by 2031, all these 56 aircraft will have been delivered. And very importantly, with this factory being set up by the Tatas, there will be an export hub where these aircraft can be manufactured here and Airbus can get customers to buy them directly from India. Want to get a question in to Air Marshal Anil Chopra once again on this momentous deal that has been pushed through. Air Marshal Chopra, you were probably still in service when the files began to move on this procurement. So I can imagine how you feel today, seeing it finally enter the final leg. This aircraft is meant to, replace the old Avros. No doubt you have experience being in the Avros as well. But how does it feel today to finally see a deal like this go through? Because like we've described, it is momentous at many different levels, sir.
Undoubtedly, notwithstanding the 10 years, I think it's a fantastic thing that has happened. We have been waiting for it for years. Three quick points I would like to make. Yes. First is, class. Avro was a 3-ton class. The AN32 is a 6.5 ton. This is 9-ton class. So you are going to make a big jump. Avro didn't have a rear ramp. This one has a rear ramp. Means you're loading, unloading, getting the troops in, getting the paratroopers in. Fantastic. Very, very quick speed. Third, first time, we already have a good ecosystem after the LCA numbers are building up and later versions will come. So fighter ecosystem, we have mastered over the years. The helicopters, we have mastered. Now we've got such a large number of helicopters and such large number of variants are there. The only area that we have were really weak because the only project till now we were running was Saras, which has been floundering for many reasons. This is the first time you will have a transport aircraft ecosystem in the country, and this will become a launch pad for many, many other aircraft, future aircraft like airliners, etc. The other point I want to make is that AN32s have just recently been upgraded. We are just about finished the upgrade. They are running out of age. One day, not only the Coast Guard Navy that you suggested, even it could be, if we get a good production schedule here, could even replace AN32 one day because it has got greater tonnage, it's got a similar rear ramp, etc. So my contention is success of this one will make a big difference to the country for civil airliners, for the transport ecosystem, and we would have then come in the big league having fighter, transport, helicopter programs in the country.
It's an incredible day, and Air Marshal Chopra's word matters here because he has been in the air headquarters. He's been a pilot. He knows what it's like for to navigate India's very complicated, long-winding procurement system, and to finally see a crucial deal like this finally be concluded and ready to be signed should be very, very satisfying. And I thank you very much for your wisdom and your words, Air Marshal Chopra. Thank you once again for being with me here on 5 Live. Added a lot of value to put these crucial stories of national importance.